Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Maria Nadapov. I'm so excited to have this conversation with Jen Wirt, who is a parenting coach expert, and she specializes in working with parents of young children. And today we are so excited to be speaking about how to master the art of mastering meltdowns and all of the components that really contribute to that, what that looks like, what it means, breaking it all down, and of course, giving you effective tools, tips, and strategies to implement with your young ones and for yourself for more peaceful interactions with your children and within your family. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Maria Nadapov. I'm a step parenting coach and blended family strategist. Jen, would you briefly introduce yourself as well?
Yes, happy to. I'm Jen Wirt. I'm a Boulder-based conscious parent coach. I work with families across America, families who are raising littles between the ages of 2 and 12. And we really work on how to prioritize connection because those preschool and elementary school years are when really we're laying the foundation for our relationships for life with our kiddos.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you. So let's go ahead and delve in because this half hour is going to fly by. So I know that in our conversations prior to this today, we were chatting about the critical component, which is self-regulation and what that is. And of course, there's a lot of myths about what that is. And I know that a lot of people usually come to us and they say basically, "Hey, fix my kid." So let's dive into that. What do you say when people come to you and they say this to you?
Yeah, it's there's nothing wrong with you if you come and say that because that's very normal to think what is wrong with my kiddo? They're really like overreacting to small things or having um, outbursts that are unpredictable or are predictable, and I don't know what to do about them. There must be something wrong with them. And the biggest thing that actually makes me stand out in my coaching is that I right away with parents step way back and say, okay, I hear what's going on. I hear the pattern. I hear what's frustrating and overwhelming and maybe confusing. Let's back up and look at how we're showing up. What led to this? How did we prepare them or not prepare them for the situation? What are um, what are the patterns in and the dynamics in our relationships with them? How are we tending to our relationships? Because often kids don't have the words yet to come to you and say, you know, you're doing this, mom, and it's really upsetting me. Or dad, you know, you're saying this, and makes me feel small. Like they just don't have those words yet. They are still developing and learning every day. And so when they are acting in a certain way, acting out, I'm going to go like this, air quotes, um, it's on us to figure out, step back, get enough perspective to figure out what is leading up to it and what is our part. How might we show up differently? Or how are we showing up to start with, right? What
Yeah.
are we messaging to them either in words, through our language choice, or implicitly through our actions? And so I think it's unique in my coaching. I help parents I hold up the mirror and help them look at themselves and how they are showing up in the relationship so they can interpret their kiddo's behavior. This is the other piece I help them with to understand better what they need, what skills they don't have and need support developing, what they're feeling, and how to validate that and empathize with that so that they can then move forward together, better understanding each other. That's always, always the goal.
Yes, that's so beautiful. I love the way that you've described um, your process, which is so powerful. And it makes me think of what I often say, which is all behavior is communication.
Mhm.
And of course, our kids are taking cues from us. We are their role models, right? We're their first exposure of essentially how to survive and or thrive, navigate situations. So a lot of times, like you said, we may not be consciously aware of what we are bringing to the table that is being reflected back to us, thinking the issues over there with them. But yeah, that is so powerful. And I also love what I heard you describe as it gives them the opportunity to take the power back and step back into their power because sometimes it can feel when a loved one is struggling or having these big emotions or having these just difficult, possibly behaviors, etc. It can feel so powerless. We want to help, but we don't know what to do. We feel like we have absolutely no control and we're at their mercy. And what I heard you describe is that you help them really step back into their power by recognizing all of this, and it gives them access for what can be different and all through their own, you know, understanding slash essentially interactions. And that's so wonderful. And
Mhm.
so, can we break down this idea of self-regulation a bit more? I had to realize, and I've tried all kinds of modalities personally, and have trained in a variety of modalities to be of utmost, you know, support, I suppose, to my clients. And I found that self-regulation is truly the cornerstone for absolutely everything. Because the
Yeah.
reality is, regardless of our incredible um, wisdom and tools and know-how and intentions, if we are dysregulated, meaning if we are automatically, maybe we can't help ourselves and we yell, or we scream, or we just get aggressive, or we get flustered and anxious, without that being able to be neutralized, it's gonna fall on deaf ears, right? No, usually in my experience, no child or adult really responds well to that energy. And there's also another component to that. Even our anxiety sometimes can be read as something that is almost like distrusting. So, because subconsciously, the sort of whether it's a manipulation or whatever it is, that unbalanced energy, right? Like subconsciously, we are reading that as, oh, there's something off here. I can't fully trust this individual. They're unsafe, is how the mind reads it. And it's not something we're aware of oftentimes. And so, if that is happening with you, for example, if you just get anxious when you're noticing your child is dysregulated, or maybe they're kind of rude or giving you the cold shoulder, or maybe they're throwing a tantrum, whatever that is, they're going to perceive your anxiety or um, uncertainty or nervousness as something that they can't trust. And it's going to likely amplify whatever's already happening with them that is their emotional breakdown, if you will. What do you think of that, Jen?
I think so many things. I think that, yeah, self-regulation has everything to do with self-awareness, which is really what I teach. It's what
Yeah.
I teach all day long. And it's we've got to look at our own, we've got to be aware enough of ourself and our emotions and our regulation. And when we get off, it doesn't mean we never dysregulated. That's a
Of
normal
course.
and healthy part of life, right? But how do we come back again and again and again? It could be 1,000 times a day, it could be 100 times a day. How do we do that? How do we model that out loud for our children? I often talk through metacognition with my clients. Do it out loud. You don't have to
Yeah.
have this private internal scene going on. Well, oh, I just yelled and now I feel bad, and like quietly in your head, and then try to do it out loud. Wait a minute. I do not like how I just sounded out
Yeah.
loud. So I'm
Yeah.
going to take a breath, and I'm going to just come back to myself for a minute. Just a minute, you guys. Right? You can do this in front of your kids, and they might look at you sideways and silly. What is happening with mom? But it's really important for them to see inside your head and how a human does this. Okay, I just think I need a sip of water. And then you take one. And then you say, let's reset here. Can you start over? What did you ask? What did you want? And you start again, right? And so you're modeling, wow, I got really off. I got lost in my fear, my worry, my anger, whatever it was. And this is how I came back. I did a couple little micro practices. And now I'm back with you. And now I'm present. Because the way to be most loving is to be the most present,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got
100%.
to self-regulate ourselves over and over and over again. As parents, we're triggered all the time. As humans, we are.
Yes.
Um, the thing is that when we are parents, we are the examples of what to do when we're dysregulated. First of all, we normalize dysregulation out loud for our kids, and then we model how to come back, how to come back, how to come back. And
Yeah.
I'll just add too, it's really important to practice when we're not dysregulated, but when we are calm, how to come into our bodies, how to be more present with practices with our kids.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And having those conversations too, like after a breakdown, say it was a really extensive tantrum or breakdown of communication, fight, whatever you, um, afterwards, when things are calm,
Mhm.
talk about it. Like what happened, what led to it, how were they feeling? Give them space to really express themselves and think for themselves, like to recognize what was difficult in that moment or what may have helped, right? Like just having those conversations, like you're saying, but modeling and inviting, of course, and like in the midst of the breakdowns. But I think also um essentially guiding kids to think for themselves and recognize some of these signs because everybody is unique and what may be right. Like we might also, even with the best of intentions as parents, sometimes make assumptions about what it was about when in reality it wasn't that. So I think creating this space to explore that together and get really clear on what it was versus what it wasn't about, and then coming up with, what may be helpful next time, right?
I
What to
think that
put in
often,
place.
oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah,
Sorry, Maria. I think that when we're in it, our sort of Western hemisphere adult minds, we do want to figure out what is this about? How could
sure.
this is just a stuffed animal. Who cares? We're very much into solving, unconsciously, maybe judging the appropriateness or not of the reaction. Let's just figure out what this is and fix it, right? And I really encourage parents to try instead, and when they're able, when schedules allow, to just sit back and self-regulate 1,000 times
Yes,
maybe during a tantrum. You just keep on, hand on your heart, drinking water. Yes, nodding, empathizing, quiet, letting them have their feelings, holding space for them while we're holding boundaries. No one's going to be hurt or kicked or hit, bitten during it. We have to hold our boundaries and hold space at the same time. It's not till after, and this is what I think you're
yes,
talking about, when we come
hmm
back in repair, when we're all regulated again,
yes,
time has passed. And there's no rush to get there. It's just
yes,
important you do get there. You circle back. And the important pieces of repair, Maria, are really coming to them and doing a few things, sharing your experience,
hmm
listening to their experience. Hey, what happened or what was going on for you? Maybe starting there, unless they
hmm
need modeling first until they're used to this. You share, you don't get to talk, you just listen.
yeah,
And then when it's your turn, you share your experience. And then in the end, it's just, I wonder, could either of us do something a little differently next time to make it better? Well,
exactly,
I want to own this, or, and is there anything you want to own or you want to try differently that might have made it a little better next time? If they don't know, they don't know. They're still growing, they're still learning. But every time, there's something we can all do in relationships to do a little better next time, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and what you're describing, like if they don't know, they don't know. It's so
Mm,
beautiful because it's the process of exploration.
mm.
Like none of us know at first, but as we put our attention to it and we notice and we get more and more curious, eventually things start to emerge and things start to become more clear, or we start to notice things, we start to realize things, and what there is to address perhaps, or what may be more helpful next time, or whatever was contributing becomes more, reaches our awareness more. And I think it's also such a beautiful opportunity for furthering that connection, right? I
Oh,
think a lot of times we're so hesitant to talk about the stuff that didn't go well. It's like, no,
yeah.
let's just sweep it under the rug. We want to have the good moments. We want to hold on to those. We want to amplify those. Yes. And The not good moments are just equally as part of our human experience. And we don't want, like you said, there to be any shame or guilt or, any negative anything associated with that because it's how we grow, it's how we learn, and it's inevitable. They're going to happen. So the more we're able to embrace it and explore it together and make it okay to explore it together, I think it's another part of essentially team building and building that connection and closeness.
Yeah,
That there's
repair.
nothing wrong here.
No, actually, connection is sometimes the deepest and most profound in repair, more so
Yes.
than holding hands and skipping down the street. That's a great moment too. However, so much of being in an authentic, intimate relationship, which we are with our children, is
Yes.
about being able to go to that vulnerable place and looking at what's hard and being okay
Yeah,
together.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it also develops in them through, like, we're in a way modeling for them that compassion and that space and that intimacy and vulnerability. So they are able to take that into their other relationships. And as you said, so much in those early years is building those foundations, which is how they then start to understand those layers of themselves and how they interact with others.
Of healthy relationship,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Essentially, all of our interactions and whether they're fun and happy or they're hard and uncomfortable, they're all teaching and informing and wiring our
Yeah.
children's understanding of what healthy relationship is and looks like and feels like. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a big. That's
100%.
why it's such a big job.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And I'm curious, Jen, do you talk to your clients about building in self-regulation, um, not just strategies, but sort of routines, I suppose? Like I've found that naturally there's certain powerful self-regulation things we can do in the moment to get present and get back to calm, as we've just discussed. However, there is, I think, so much power in knowing that we're going to be faced with things throughout our day. It's inevitable, as we've addressed, and setting ourselves up powerfully, especially maybe in the beginning of our day, if possible, to get to that place of calm and sort of bask in it for a little while in order to then have more of that resourcefulness to let some of those other moments through the day maybe roll off our back a bit more, not penetrate as deeply, not rock us quite as strongly, perhaps.
Mhm.
How do you talk to your clients about that? I'm curious.
Well, when I work with clients, it's always customized. It's very personal.
Sure.
So we start with where they are in their process. You can tell I work with parents who are trending toward an interest in self-awareness, self-reflection, humility, right?
Yes.
So there's that foundation, but so it looks different with every client. However, what is the same is definitely um, talking to them about what little micro practices they can weave into their days. Start their mornings with. Put your feet on the ground, list a gratitude, right?
Yes.
Um, or three, whatever you have time for, 1 to 3 gratitudes before you stand up. There are millions of little practices during the day, right? Stepping outside under the sky in the middle of the day, putting your face up, feeling the sun on your cheeks brings you back into your body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, doing things with your kiddos. When you're walking home from school or to the car from the school door, listening, bring attention to your senses. What do you hear, honey? I hear a bird I haven't heard except for when we were in Florida. This is weird. Hearing what we hear, smelling what we smell, right? Into our experience with our kids and our practice with our kids. What do we say to ourselves at night after a hard day of
Mm-hmm.
parenting, right?
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful. Yeah. And I love actually when people are willing to do that with their kiddo. Like, what was hard about today and what are you grateful for? Um,
Sure, yes.
yeah.
And alone in your own bed, hand on your
Yes.
heart. I'm doing my best. I forgive
Yeah.
myself, I'm judging myself, right? These kinds of practices
Yes.
of coming back to yourself during
Hmm.
the day, on your own, with your children. There are millions of micro practices, I call them, because they're really short and easy to do, that will train and program your body to find itself again, to regulate over and over again. So when you are triggered and off, it knows its way back,
Yes.
right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I love that you identified um or specifically called attention to identifying when we're judging or when we're assessing and trying to, do that whole measure up or whatever. And just calling it for what it is and letting go of it
Hmm.
because we have it, all of us. It's a natural part of how we, I think, are as a human. And it's not useful and it doesn't usually bring us to a good place. So just recognizing it and recognizing that in that moment we have a choice to let go of it and being able
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Even admitting, being courageous enough, courage,
Yes.
hard to admit when we are really ugly. Last
Yeah.
night we had a great night, my daughter and I, but there was one point when I got ugly. I don't know what happened inside of me, but I knew it wasn't how I want to talk to her, how I want anyone to talk to her. So I
Yeah.
went to her an hour later and said, I feel like the way I was saying that to you was not okay, and it is not what I intended. I'm so sorry. And she said, "It's okay, Mom." And I said, "No, it's really not." And I feel like it was almost bullying. And I never want to sound that way or be that way to you. I am so sorry. But that takes real humility. And
Yes.
she's now a teen, and so she's used to me coming to her often with my mistakes. And she said, "Okay, thank you." Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Which,
how amazing for her and validating because I know that we all, especially as kids, I think, are so quick to say it's okay because we
yeah.
want to make it okay because that's the fixer piece, right? That we all have inherently too. But like you said, it's not okay. And you're instilling that in her so that she doesn't hopefully tolerate that from others in the future. So she knows it's not okay. That's so
Exactly.
powerful. That's so
Yeah.
powerful.
But
I
for
also,
me,
yeah,
as a human, to use the word bullying with something I did was
yeah,
really vulnerable for me because
yeah,
so yucky. Even saying it now, I'm so embarrassed by that moment, and it was 10 seconds, but I'm still embarrassed by it. And so we have to be willing to be vulnerable like that,
yes.
and maybe a little embarrassed, so that we are building authentic relationships with our children and teaching them what being in a healthy, balanced, authentic relationship is. Yeah.
Yes, so powerful. And thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably.
Mhm.
I have been on a lifelong quest towards that kind of vulnerability and awareness and have been coming into it more and more recently, even more powerfully than ever before. And I don't know about you, when I have this like fear, of course, right? Like admitting it, like you said, the embarrassment and like the shame and the guilt and like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But as soon as I make the choice to not live from that place of fear, even regardless of the response I receive, I find that there's like a piece of myself that comes back to me. There's like a almost like a missing part that gets to drop back in. And I wonder if you feel that way too. Or if, I don't know, I'm just curious what that experience is like for you because I think sometimes we think that monster is so scary, but when we actually have the courage to face it head on, it's not nearly as bad as it seems. And it's like, oh my gosh, what was I even making this whole big deal about? Like, we're just humans. I'm so glad I just got it off my chest. And now I feel so much lighter and I'm not, putting myself in this corner making myself feel small and like it's something that like I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, I mean,
curious what
yeah, I've had, was raised in a family that didn't have these kinds of relationships. So, for me, as I'm now in my mid 50s, it's like when I'm really brave and I speak up from my truth and it's uncomfortable, I'm assured that that relationship is one that is really real, really matters to me,
Mhm.
is really one I can trust, because I could never do that with family members. And I try here and there, and I have a shaky voice, and because I'm in my 50s, I'm still trying, but I didn't grow up having them. I didn't know how. And so I had too have been committed for decades and decades to the same practice and will be committed the rest of my life. And it is always a little scary, but the
Yes.
reassuring part is not just that you are more with yourself, but you go, oh, this is a person I can be wholly myself with.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if it didn't go well or they walked away, oh, that's information too. I'm going to put my
Yes.
attention on this relationship over here that feels like I can be more me. Huh?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
so powerful. It's all about living authentically. And like you said, knowing where your energy is appreciated, but also not selling yourself short for not having tried, for not having
Yeah,
put yourself out there.
tying back to tantrums just for the crowd,
Yeah.
right? When your child is falling apart and a mess and having their feelings all over the place because they don't have the words to just tell you what's happening,
Hmm.
how can we be the guardrails, be the side of the swimming pool, be there to hold the space and let them just feel their emotions, let the emotions move through them. Again, we're all safe. We make sure there
Yeah.
those boundaries are in place and clear. But then how do we just let go and really sit with them in it and let
Yes.
them feel what they need to feel?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it may be embarrassing. It may disrupt and schedule, right? As
Yeah.
when we have littler ones. And sometimes that's okay to be a
Yeah.
little embarrassed, or that's okay to be late for something. If
Yeah.
we are communicating to one of the most important people in our world, our child, hey, you're going through a lot. It's real messy. I'm okay. I'm okay with it. And you're
Yeah.
okay. Because if I'm
Yeah.
okay, you're okay. We're going to
Right.
get through this.
Right. And you matter and your feelings matter.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you're bringing up, noticing what is happening for you that's your own stuff and being
Yeah.
able to confront that head on. Because let's face it, a lot of it is not ours. A lot of it is, oh, well, our parents
Yeah.
instilled this in us, society instilled this in us. This is what I'm hearing at all the through line whispers of the conversations that are all around us. But again, recognizing, is that just judgment and expectation? Like, we're human beings. There's going to be real moments. It's not predictable. So it's not realistic to ask predictability, especially of little ones who are just getting their legs under them when it comes to all of this big emotion stuff.
Hmm. And I notice I said, tying to what you said, that if we get embarrassed about maybe a tantrum or a meltdown that's happening, when I do less and less now, but if when I do, even now with an eye rolling teenager, if she does it and then I see someone sees, and so now I'm self-conscious and embarrassed and all these things,
Yeah.
I'm actually harsher. I'm less present. I'm
Yes.
stuck in my stuff. So that's something to look at as parents, right? And I'm
Yes.
aware of it and I still make the mistake and have to course correct. But yeah, it plays out in and has effects on our relationships with our kids. And how much do we want to let that affect them? Are we
Exactly.
performative characters in the world play, or are we being in something really real with our kids?
Yes. Beautiful. I love the way that you just said that. That's fantastic. Yes, amazing. And like you pointed to, just because you know what to do, you're always at it. Like it's not like it goes away. It's just that it's a practice, like all
Yes,
the other practices. So it gets easier with practice, but there is still tons
daily.
and tons of opportunities to practice. Yes.
It's daily.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. Really briefly, how do you work with clients and where can they find you and all the good things? And we'll definitely drop the links as well in the comments of this video.
Great. Yeah, we can put them there. The way I work with clients is when we know it's a fit and they are interested in looking at themselves in their parenting and how they are showing up. Um, we work together in what's called a 3 month container.
Hmm.
And so in that time, we meet a number of times, up to 9 full sessions. We have group coaching opportunities weekly where clients can drop in if they're available, and that's lifetime access.
Wow.
And in that 3 month container, they also get spot coaching with me 24/7. So between our sessions, we can be bouncing off um, circumstances or things that happened or feedback or celebrations so that the growth can be consistent and they feel really, really supported. That's the other thing that makes my coaching program unique is that I'm there with them on their team for 3 months and they can use me as much as they want to. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for this beautiful conversation, for your humility, vulnerability, for being willing to name all the things that I think just as parents, oftentimes we feel a lot of pressure to hide or not look at, or just the unnamed. Like I think societally, we don't talk about this enough. So I just truly appreciate you coming on and shedding a light on all of this with me and delving in. Thank you.
So much for having me, Maria. This was fun.
Of course. Awesome. Same. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And we will definitely drop those links. And thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Take care now.